to start off with some of your questions. You have a couple of questions, I think.
Me?
Let us break this question into its elements.
Okay.
First section is, do you Muslims believe in?
The human body is a sacred temple.
Okay. The word sacred temple as an expression of this human body is rooted in the biblical perception that where the Bible says that we are created in the image of God. So, as God is a sacred being, because we are created in His image, we must be also sacred. So, it is a philosophical derivative of the biblical belief. But this has nothing to do in the Islamic understanding of a human body. A human body is understood in Islam to be an earthly vehicle for the spirit that would carry the spirit, and the spirit will give it life. So they work like a twin. And what is sacred about the human is his life. The human life is sacredly protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that any one who kills an innocent soul, it is as if he has killed the entire human race. This is the sacredness of the human soul, the human spirit, but not the human body. The human body is made out of dust, water. If mixed, it becomes clay. Then Allah blew into it from the spirit, and the spirit turned this human shape into a living human being. Okay? So there is nothing sacred about the body, but it is highly respected. Like you don't mutilate a human, life or dead. Okay? You don't torture a human, life or dead. Okay? You don't disrespect a human. So what is respected and protected and honored is a human as a creature of Allah, but not the body as a vehicle. Okay. Well, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, once I shape him, talking about Adam when he was in the mud stage. ماشي? It says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ, once I shape him and format him, right? And then once I blew into him from my spirit. It doesn't mean that Allah is blowing into us from His physical spirit. Allah doesn't have a physical spirit. Okay? He is not a physique. The ruh is from khalqullah. It is like when Allah says ibadi. It doesn't mean that they are part of Him. Ibadi means my servants. Does Allah have servants to serve Him? Are we atypical servants to a typical master? No. So the words are familiar, but the meaning are different. It is like when you say Allah's hand is above their hand. Can you use your hand to simplify what you're saying? No. Because Allah, He has a hand, but it is not like ours. When Allah says to Moses, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي, I have made you above my eye or over my eye, does it mean that His eye is a physical eye like ours? Of course not. So what is the governing principle here? The governing principle is لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like unto Him. Which means whenever we talk about the being of Allah, we have to be careful not to confuse the words for referring to a physical being like ourselves. Okay? So what else? You had a third section in your question.
Oh, no, that answers. I think I already asked you this question, but
Okay.
I'll see if we already addressed it. The question about in a family encouraging competition, like having, is it better to have one artist and one scholar in a family, or to encourage everyone to be artsy and scholarly, spiritual, scientific, to the best of their ability? I heard it's unfair to say to your daughter, you're the photographer in the family, or solely designate one person to function in a specific role. Like, I wonder if you're trying to get everyone in the family to pray, if you shouldn't, like, how do you encourage everyone to?
The only thing you should ask of everybody are the things that Allah asks of everybody.
Okay, what makes you Muslim?
Yes, what makes you Muslim, what makes you decent, what makes you a good-mannered person, okay? But anything else that falls under the rubric of a skill, a talent, or an interest, that has to be individualized. So I may not have the inclinations you do, you may not have the inclination your sister has. So everyone becomes an individual when it comes to talents, skills, and interests. But when it comes to what are the things that I need to ask of all of my children, whatever Allah asks.
And last night I went to the public library and I read this book. It's called Before the Wedding by Munira Lakovich Azeldine. She's a Muslim marriage counselor, and it's a collection of questions for Muslims to ask before getting married. So, do you recommend, like, before you marry, do you recommend premarital counseling, or do you recommend just reading, getting advice from books like this, or maybe watching this lecture series for a period of time?
How about all of the above?
Everything?
Yeah. Do everything, because marriage is a huge investment.
Yeah.
There is nothing more important in your life that you will ever make a decision about that is more important than marriage.
So it's worth the time.
So if you take 16 years to become an engineer,
Right.
and you need to educate yourself about your role as a wife and what to expect of your good husband, then take 1 year to learn it. That's not a long time. And also, especially because there is no real school to teach people, maybe Sister Iman will come with one, but because she's interested in this topic, that we set up a school whereby we teach prospects about what to do to get married in the appropriate way, what issues you need to look at, and what choices are available for you in terms of quality, criteria, expectations, things like this.
I think you can partner with the Adams Center, because don't they have a program?
So the different, I think that they have a good start. I think a lot of the people in North America have a good start. They have a 1-day program or a 5-day program or a 2-hour program, and just as much as the imam can take and do. To have a separate organization, a separate, solely focused on that, I don't think as a country that I know of that we've gotten that far. I would love to see that. I have a book draft. It's like the 10 conversations that you should have with your engaged person. Either during the engagement or right after. So it's a step towards it, but I would prefer a class.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
And one thing I picked up from the book was that they said marriage is a union of two unique families, not an isolated couple. And I keep thinking the movie versions of relationships where they just sweep you off your feet and you go to Paris or something, and it's not just about the romance or like going to restaurants or something together.
Yeah. It's different from dating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah.
So thank you. You answered all my questions.
Sure. Sister Iman, do you want to think about setting up marriage or marital school or?
I mean, I wish we could do something together. I mean, you have a lot of experience, mashallah, and I also, I have a network of newlyweds where I can connect to them. I was a newlywed before, and I have that practical kind of perspective, the questions that they want asked. So I wish we could do something that would be great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should have something that, at least when they, because a lot of people, when they come to you, they just want to get married. Okay, when can I get married
Yes.
next week?
Yes.
Where's the schedule?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, let me see if I can let me give you one lesson first before I send you up. But maybe we can, you know how the Catholic church does, they actually, a lot of them push you into mandatory, you know, course before you're allowed to get married
Yes.
here.
Yes.
I wish we could do something like that.
Let's work on it.
It'd be nice, especially for people like me, like who grew up in a Christian household. This is eye-opening. What makes the foundations of a happy Muslim family? I need to know. Like it's all new, like for me, like Quran and Sunnah. I didn't grow up with this, so
Yeah.
it's very
I
nice.
actually have the curriculum, like I have the book, the chapters and the curriculum, we're just getting it, you know.
It's worth it, and then good.
Yeah, I did a full course on family law last semester, I think, or one semester before at the Quba Institute here. And it was well attended by newlywed couples. So their remarks were quite very positive about the content of the course, even though I did not have the energy or the health to devote 100% of me for the course. I had many other things to do, but it was very eye-opening for many of them as to what it takes to get married in the proper way and so on and so forth.
Have you considered publishing your guidelines?
No, I want Sister Iman's help.
Yeah.
I
You should.
I may have some ideas, but I'm not good in dedicating my life and time for writing. I have a lot of things to write, but with all the tangible duties you have to address on almost emergency basis daily, it is difficult to dedicate time unless you are going to be fully sleep deprived and lack your focus and everything else.
What we do also is just once we have the curriculum, we can just shoot videos. So you shoot like 5-minute videos for each curriculum, and then the woman and the man, you know, they see it while they're engaged. They see it on their own first. Then they do the exercises, and then they can meet physically with the wali or somebody to discuss them, or over the phone or whatever. So that's another thing. I might take less of your time because you can just do a video. Like I can put a video on you right now, and you just talk. You know,
That'd be nice to
so
record.
it's easier for you.
Yeah. I many times when I marry couples, I talk to them, snapshot in almost 40 minutes, as to what will happen from there forward, and how did you arrive here, and what skills you've already learned, and what do you want to pick from the lessons you learned already during the engagement, and what you're going to face, and what surprises you are likely to face despite how long you've been engaged, and things like this. So many times I get remarks from parents of the in-laws, and many of them would say, I wish somebody had told me this before I got married. So the office asked me several times to record all of these repeated lessons, but I don't have a fixed camera or anything, so I just say that's it. But if we have a system, we could capture some of that, inshallah. Anyone else has a question? Yes.
I have a question. How do you describe like jihad to the non-Muslim? Because I work with non-Muslim and they keep asking me like, you know, what ISIS is doing, or what these like, you know, the people who use the suicide bomb. Like, is not that Islam? Like, they're doing jihad. So how you describe jihad to them? Like, no, like that. I told them that is not jihad, but I don't know how to like respond to them.
Well, jihad, as you might expect, is a very lengthy topic. It is difficult to give you a real complete answer in a snapshot or few minutes. So if that is of interest to the rest of you, we can dedicate at least 1 or 2 or 3 sessions for this subject, because that's how long it will take. I have the materials and everything, and I've done this several times. In fact, after 9/11, I did a presentation at MIT and Harvard and Boston University professors of social sciences and Islamism and so on, they were in attendance. And the title of the subject was the Islamic solution for the problem of terrorism.
So will I be able to find it online? Like, do you have it?
No, unfortunately, in those days, nobody was recording anything. But I can do it for you here. If this is anybody's interest, we can do it. Anyone else would be interested in this topic? Okay. Okay, let us finish with the family, and then you can pick topic, and I'll bring it to you, inshallah. So that will be the first topic after the family issues. Okay? Okay, anyone else has a question? Okay, if you have any suggestions like this, you don't have to wait for this. Talk to Sister Iman. She will put it on a schedule and will address it, inshallah, so that she can announce it to everybody. Inshallah. We went over those points last week as some poor skills and bad habits and attitudes that influence the relationship inside the marriage. We'll continue with the addition of the same list, a continuation of the same list, with carelessness and negligence. When people do not carry their responsibilities inside any partnership, the partnership falls apart. That is true in business, it's true between you and your neighbors, it is also true between you and your relatives. You see, some family relationships deteriorate very quickly when any side of the relationship does not own to the responsibility and the duties that they have to perform as a son towards his parents, or a daughter towards her family, or a brother towards his sibling, or vice versa. So we need to identify what are our duties as husbands and wives, so that we do not neglect our duties. And we'll talk about this, mutual duties and individual duties, inshallah. Selfishness is a big problem. It is a very big problem in marital relationship. Selfishness is both a human trait, but it's much more obvious in children than it is in adults. So what is the difference? Children's selfishness is exposed and open. They tell you, this is mine, and they grab it as they are talking, right? But adults who want to have something, they can put it in a diplomatic way. Can I try your shoes? May you give me this? Can I borrow your car? Right? So we are all, in a way, Allah recognizes that we are a selfish creature. Man is a selfish creature by definition. Our ego matters more than many other important things. Okay? So my dignity, my identity, my this and my that, all of this is a reflection of selfishness. Where does selfishness come from? Selfishness comes from having a self, to start with. And having a self means that you have your own ego. And ego doesn't necessarily mean something negative. All humans have egos. All humans have something that they need to work on. So what is about ourself that is egotistic and inflated? Like when you look at some people who see themselves much bigger than their reality, what happens is inflated self, right? So we all know that when somebody starts to talk and he or she keeps saying I, we know that this I is very inflated, okay? So selfishness comes from the fact that we have self, and this self is recognized in the Quran as a legitimate component of who you are. Where does it really come from? When the spirit unites with the body, now you have a soul, you have a self, and you have to deal with that self. So the soul is the product of the marriage between the spirit. As it is blown into the mud, it turns this mud into a living human being. Now that living human being has a soul or a self. Okay? That self is described in the Quran as a component that is given two types of competing, contradictory inclinations. It's a complex composition. So it has the inclination towards wickedness, very bad, and it has inclination towards righteousness. So the human, in essence, is somewhere between an angel, so he's not a pure angel, and a devil, so he's not a pure devil, but he runs the gamut of everything in between. So a human could be 90% angelic, which is a righteous person, or 90% devilish and 10% angelic. But no one is 100%, can you close the door? No one is 100% devilish or 100% angelic. So what is the benefit of all of this? Is this philosophy? No. This is something we all need to understand. Because the Quran says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Successful indeed the one who purifies oneself. And a failure indeed is the one who indulges himself or herself. So do we all want to succeed? Yes. What is success? Success is when you are able to control, tame, trim, or get rid of wicked inclinations. Can we get rid of our wicked inclinations altogether? No. No, we can't. Why? Allah created us like this. So what is then the objective of purification, tarbiyah, education, all of this? The purpose is to minimize the negative inclinations and to maximize the positive inclinations. So the more I act like an angel, the better off I am and my surrounding. The more I act like a devil, the worse off I am and the worse off are my surroundings. So in that struggle, here comes the self. Sometimes you get ideas that are very beautiful. Why don't you go visit this sister? She is sick. Or this brother. Or why don't you help this man? He asked you 10 times. Why don't you do this? Those inspirations and positive ideas, definitely they are not coming from the shaitan. You have to be clear. Okay? But if the ideas coming to me are negative, wicked, or evil, or sinful, I know for sure that is not from God. That is not from a good source. It is from the shaitan. What do I do? You see, when you want, yes.
Are we sure it's from shaitan, or it may be from shaitan, or it may be from your own nafs?
The shaitan uses your inclination to tempt you. And we learn this from the story of Adam and Iblis. Adam, it was obvious that he wanted to live for eternity. And he wanted to stay in paradise for good. When Allah told him, enter into paradise, he took it as this is where he belongs. Right? What does the shaitan use to tempt Adam to disobey Allah? He tells him, Adam, should I tell you about the tree of eternity? Right? And what else? And a kingdom that never perishes. what does man look for other than these two? Living forever and having a kingdom that is never going to vanish. Right? So the shaitan uses your own inclination. Because if, for example, a person has aversion towards wealth, right? How could the shaitan use money to tempt him or her? It doesn't work, right? It is like you cannot lure your young child with jalapeno, right? Come, I'll give you a piece of jalapeno. But chocolate, of course, right? So the shaitan will only use things that you recognize as either sweet, I don't mean sugary, I mean attractive, I mean pleasant, right? Or things that you want to enjoy that you don't even know how they feel, but you have an imagination, right? So the shaitan tempts us, for example, to look forward to do easy things, because easy things are pleasant. As I was talking to a sister today, I was giving her some suggestions to help her with her family situation, and she said, Sheikh Shakir, but this is really difficult. It's not easy. I say, yes, it's not easy. Our ummah has come all the way down to the bottom because we've always been looking for what's easy, right? But I asked her, is it easier and more pleasant to slide from the top of an icy mountain or to climb? Which is easier and which is more pleasant? It's easier to slide, right? But even to enjoy the slide, you have to go up first. Our ummah wants to enjoy the slide without going up. And we as individuals like things when they are easy, when they are joyful, when they are pleasant, when we feel good doing it, right? But the price it takes, we don't want to pay. So there is no gain without pain, doesn't ring a good bell in our ears. We want gain that comes without pain. And that is not going to be here. It is going to be in paradise after you've gone through all the pain in the world here, right? Then over there, you get everything because you've already paid the price. The advance price is here. So Allah, to clear this issue from our head, Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have created man in difficulties. Our life is tight. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he says that الدنيا سجن المؤمن. This low life in which we live, and rightly called low life, because there is no lower than this. This is al-haya ad-dunya, the lowest life. Okay? السجن الدنيا سجن المؤمن وجنة الكافر. This life is the prison for the believer, and it is paradise for the disbeliever. And that's why they want everything here and now. Unfortunately, young boys and girls of ours who grew up here, they also want everything here and now. That's why they have no patience. They don't appreciate the virtue of patience. So let us not go on a tangent.
But I have a question for you.
Yes.
Would you describe selfishness as part of the survival instinct?
It is. This is where I was going to. That talking about the self, it is the second most important component of who you are as a human. What is the first most important? It is your spirit. It is your spirit. Because spirit gives you life. But the soul is the byproduct component that comes as a result of the marriage between the spirit and the body. Okay? So why the soul is most important? It is because if you fix it, you fix everything. Okay? ألا إن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله. Indeed, there is that part of the body. If it is good and righteous, the whole body is righteous. What is it? It is the heart. Okay? So where does the soul come in? The heart feeds the soul with the information that the soul uses to make up your mind for you. So when you say I or mine, you are referring to your soul, right? The soul is the house of decision making, as it is the house of desires. But the heart is the emotional residence. That's where your emotions are. Whether those emotions are positive or negative, love or hate, fear or comfort, happiness or sadness, depression or euphoria, all of this is in the heart. When you're afraid, your heart pumps faster. When you're happy, it palpitates faster, but a different type of heartbeat, right? So the heart houses emotions. It houses and it exports those emotions and what you like or don't like or fear to your nafs. So your eyes look at something and you either like it or you don't like it. If you don't like it, you turn away from it. If you like it, you want to keep staring at it, you keep looking at it, right? So the longer you look at something, the easier it resides in your heart and sticks with image, picture, taste, and flavor. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do not extend a second look to the opposite sex with lust. Because the first look, the inadvertent look, is yours, but the second is not yours. Why? Because extending a look of lust or appreciation or so on and so forth would create a resident image and taste in your heart for what you're seeing, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about husbands and wives, and He teaches us a dua. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. What is قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ? قُرَّة from قَرَّ يَقِرُّ, which is to settle. To settle, which means this is the person that as long as I look, I will continue to be hungry and thirsty for more, because she is my wife, he is my husband, he is my son, she is my daughter. So those you could never say, I am saturated of. Their love abides and expands beyond time. So whatever amount of pleasure you have with them, it can always rejuvenate. So Allah is saying, okay, so I instituted in you the love for spouses, women, children, family. But be careful. I don't allow you to take this beyond what is legitimate. So we like juice, right? But grape juice that is fermented, right, becomes into wine. Wine is haram. But grape juice, is it? No, it is not. If you ferment it, it becomes haram. What is fermentation? You let it fester and ferment for time, right? So is looking at the opposite sex haram in and of itself? No. But if you ferment this look, it becomes intoxicating. I hope that the imaging is clear.
Yes.
Okay? So going back to the self, the most important component, this important comes from two ways. Number one, that it is the component that will decide for me. So the heart can say anything. I like this person, or I don't like this person, but your soul can see things independent from even though it's going to be affected by your heart. And if they agree, it becomes a heart and soul gripping. So, for example, I like to be the greatest neurosurgeon in town. I'm a high schooler and I'm dreaming. But then that is my heart, that is my wish, right? But then my soul, which is lazy, it says, no, but you're not good in science. And by the way, it takes 3-4 more years than everybody else. Then my heart will be damped and will say, but I like it. And the soul says, no, that's not for you. So last night you spoke to your dad, you said, I want to be a doctor. Your dad is very happy, right? The second day, oh, I changed my mind. Right? How do you change your mind? Because there are two components inside you. They are talking each from their own perspective. Okay? So you want, for example, to go to a trip and you have the money, right? And your heart is really with the idea. You agreed with your friends, everything is set. Then your soul says, oh, but you promised your mom to give her a gift. If you spend that much money for that trip, you're not going to be able to give her that gift. So I would rather that you give her that gift. Then you will change your mind. What is going on is a communication between what you love in your heart or what is desirous in your heart or in your soul. So if the desire wins, it wins. If the emotions win, they win. So you have to be cognizant of that struggle inside you. Who's talking to you now? Whom are you going to listen? So the Quran gives us, I will get to you, the Quran gives us a criteria. And I want this to be clearly communicated to you. So if it's not clear, tell me. The Quran says very clearly that judging by emotions puts you at risk of losing your interest. I'll repeat this. Using your emotions, whether they are love or hate, fear or worry, anything that settles in your heart of feelings or emotions, it can be very misleading. What should I judge with? The Quran says, judge based on what is in your best interest. The Quran uses for the term my best interest, the Quran uses the word khair. So where do we find all of this? We find it in the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And maybe you like something, وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. It is not in your best interest. The translation that says, and it's not good for you, the word good is very subjective. Okay? But the word in your best interest, interest is definable. Interest means something that benefits you. So benefits are definable and you can identify it. But when you say khair, I don't know what's khair for me. I don't know what's good for me. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and maybe you hate something that is good for you, and maybe you like something that is bad for you. The word good means in your best interest. The word bad means it is against your best interest. What makes this have anything to do with emotions? Because hate and liking are emotionals. Right? It's emotional things. When I like something, I'm attracted to it. It's emotion. When I don't like something, I feel bad, I feel disgusted, or I hate it, I don't like it. These are emotions. So this ayah clearly defines that judging by emotions could hurt your interest. Yes, sister, you had a question.
Okay. On the topic of purifying oneself or self-improving a person, self, at what point is one considered a hypocrite? Because when you're trying to improve yourself, you make mistakes. you correct yourself, you go back. So to me, it seems like you're constantly going back and forth. But at what point is a person munafiq? At what point is he considered?
What does nifaq have to do with self-correction?
So I think of nifaq or a hypocrite as someone that's, you're.
There are two types of hypocrisy. There is hypocrisy that is mentioned in the Quran. It refers to hypocrites who were not believers to start with, but they only pretended that they believe to gain favor with the Muslims. But when they go and they are alone with disbelievers, they tell them, no, we're just deceiving them, because they actually are trying to deceive them. Okay? But even if they deceive some Muslims, they do not deceive Allah. Because if it's a matter of faith, then faith is known. The heart is an open book for Allah. Right? So this is one type of nifaq. Okay? But there is another type of nifaq when people pick one or more part of the descriptive behavior of the munafiqeen. Like if you lie a lot, that's one of the characteristics of hypocrites. If you betray your trust, if you act in excessive aggressiveness and inappropriate ways with people that you disagree with, that also is a characteristic of the hypocrites. If you are lazy standing up for prayer, if you find yourself dragging yourself, that is a descriptive characteristic of the hypocrites in the Quran. If you find it difficult to spend from your resources for the sake of Allah, that also is a descriptive characteristic of the hypocrites. So some people will be partial hypocrites, and it depends how many of those characteristics apply to them. If all of this applies, most probably they are as hypocritical as the early disbelievers who pretended to be Muslims. Yes.
I think in English we use like hypocrite. For example, if someone's trying to wear hijab and then they wear it one day and not the other, and they're trying to wear longer sleeves, and then someone will say, well, that's not really you, so why are you looking like you're more pious? I don't know if that's the way. Yeah, so they're trying to, in English, that's how or in modern language, that's how we're using it.
Hypocrites in the language means somebody who shows something but hides exactly the opposite. And most probably they show what brings them in a good light and hide what may show the bad light of their life. The language, I believe, is like this. In Oxford, they call it, what is the word? It's kind of like double life or something like this. Okay? So, this is the English definition of hypocrisy, and it's consistent with the Arabic definition of nifaq as well. Okay? But the classic Islamic definition of hypocrisy in terms of aqeedah is to pretend and show face on the outer personality and to hide disbelief and denial of Islam in your heart. Okay? That is hypocrisy in the faith, in the aqeedah. Okay? But then there is hypocrisy of manners or akhlaq, which I described. It comes in certain characteristics that may or may not apply all of it to someone. Okay?
So when you're self-correcting your habits, it's not hypocrisy physically, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
No, when you're trying to improve, then you are trying to improve. And that's why I asked it in the beginning, what is the relationship with hypocrisy? Hypocrisy means that you deliberately hide your worst side and show off your best side so that people may think. But this actually is called riya. Riya is to do what is good for the purpose of showing off. Okay, so that people would say, like for example, if somebody's teaching so that people would say he's a scholar, that's hypocrisy. Okay? No, this is riya. He's showing off. but it's not hypocrisy. Okay? If somebody is spending a lot of money, but only in front of people and only when people recognize it, right? Because his purpose is that people would say he or she is generous. That is showing off. It's called riya. Okay? Riya is also described as a shirkul asghar, the minor type of shirk. Yes. Did I answer your question? Okay. Sure. So, how do we purify ourselves? First of all, when you get clothes that are dirty, your kids came from a trip and their clothes, they need the laundry, right? What do? Do you just throw them in the laundry? Or do you look at it to see what is oily, what is greasy, what is dirty, what is, right? So that you don't increase the dirt that shouldn't over everything else. Okay. So first step of cleaning is to define what needs to be cleaned so that you use the right detergents, right? So if that soul is a showy self, riya, nafs تحب الرياء, the person who likes to show off, and many of our children today, they like to show off, right? So how do we change that behavior? Behavior is only the result of principles that sit in the head or emotions that drive our behavior. So if I am happy when I am commended and praised, then that could drive me to be a person who likes to show off, right? But if I am happy to do the right thing, I will do the right thing whether people praise me or condemn me. You see the difference now? So when people's praise is immaterial for me, I tend to be more sincere. So if you see your child thirsty and hungry for praise, you have to monitor how much they like that praise and why. Okay? What is the difference between liking praise and appreciating recognition? Praise is unlimited when it comes to the desire for praise. But recognition is when you tell your child, thank you very much for doing the dishes, for example. But if they want to be praised the whole day, and for 1 week soon after, right, for doing the dishes last Saturday, then that is undue praise that is beyond even showing off. Okay? They are greedy and they want to get the maximum and pay the minimum. That is a behavior that requires correction. So you need to first identify what needs to be corrected in myself. I'm just using children because they are easier to understand, okay? Because they are at display in front of us, but we don't look ourselves in the mirror. We most of the time act like them and think like them because we are all humans. So in any way, so the first step is to identify what is wrong that I need to correct. Maybe I grew up with some attitudes that I do not want to recognize because they are embarrassing to recognize. And if I recognize, I will be forced to change. And change is difficult. As you remember, change is climbing the mountain. But staying where you are is pleasant, right? Especially if it is sliding. So the idea that we want to purify ourselves without defining what is wrong with ourselves is preposterous. Unless I acknowledge my mistakes, my wrong and bad habits, I could never pretend to be sincere about changing myself. So the first step is to identify what is wrong with me. What is wrong with me not waking up to my work? What is wrong with me not doing my homework when I have to do it? What is wrong with me not turning the homework on time? What is wrong with me not making the home ready when everybody had left 3-4 hours ago? What's wrong with me being lazy? I'm just throwing some practical things to look at. If I start with the easiest habits to control and keep climbing the ladder until I get to those bad, entrenched bad habits, I will succeed. But if I always want to slaughter the biggest animal in the jungle, right, before ever catching a rabbit, then I'm not likely to do it. And many of us, unfortunately, want to rein in the bull before they can raise a pussycat. So when we look about changing ourselves, we must identify our habits. And that requires a very simple task. Make a list. What do I find bad or shortcoming in myself? And make a list. And then what do people say is actually bad about my habits or my ways? And make another list. Where they agree, this combined list is a real list that I need to address. Where they disagree, I can find always a way to help you put the connection between the two. Because one habit can lead to another and to another and to another. So once you make the list, then the task is quite much easier. Then you make 3 steps for each bad habit and say, how do I change this habit? What does it take for me? So if it is, for example, waking up early, and I can't do it because I have not done it before, then I need to look at certain things. Do I eat my dinner very late? Do I take heavy dinners? Do I sleep late? Am I on the internet for late times at night? Am I talking to friends? Am I sitting staring in the wall for the whole night? It may be all of the above or some of it. But at the end, I know what causes my failure to wake up when I need to. Then some people would say, oh, I have done all of this, but it really doesn't work. Well, tell me what it is. You say, it doesn't work. When you say it, what are you talking about? Most probably nobody wants to answer this question. But this is the critical question. It here means to my soul, to myself. I am referring to myself, that I am not willing to do what I know I have to do. I am not willing to sleep early. I am not willing to quit the internet late at night. I am not willing to wrap my day after Isha. So I need to be more specific when analyzing my attitude towards my attitudes. Am I a person who is looking to please myself? Is this what matters? If it is, I'm going to fail. Because myself is not going to be pleased easily. It always wants more of anything pleasant and much less of anything that requires any effort. So you were saying that when we try to correct ourselves, we keep going back to some of those habits and attitudes. Because change is like, what do you call it? Catching, what do you call catfish? Have you tried to catch a catfish? Huh? Try. Get a live catfish from the market and put it in a bowl, right? And put some water in it and try to catch the fish. Even it is in your hand, it can slip very quickly, right? This is like yourself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرَهُ. Nay, man is the most accurate witness against himself, no matter how many excuses he throws away. You can spread the net of excuses right and left, right? But you know yourself. So the Quran really gives us a very vivid picture of who we are, how our souls work, what works for ourselves. Okay? So I will go back that behavior is only the result of the values we place on what is ahead of us of a task. So if I know that this is my final exam and it is my last exam, right? I will give it my last breath, right? Unlike somebody who's still in the beginning of the coursework, right? And he feels lax because if I get an F here, I will make it next semester. If I drop the course, I can. But the last course, the last semester, you're going to be graduate, you will give it your maximum effort. Presuming that you are rational, right? I don't talk about the exceptions. So when we place a great value on something, we give it our best. Is this clear? When we place a little value on anything, we put it at the end of our list of priorities. Okay? So do you want to call your mom? No, I just called her last month and she was okay. Right? So in a month you didn't call your mom? Yeah, we call each other a month. Each month she calls one time, I call one time. Right? Okay. Did you call your boyfriend? Yeah, we were together last night. And I'm not using the boyfriend lightly. I'm saying anyone that you appreciate, okay? Any one of your close friends, whoever this may be, but the value you place on a relationship with any person places your response to their calls at a different level of priority, either low or high, depends how much you value. So the first thing we need to look at when it comes to changing our habits is the cost-benefit analysis. How much does this bad habit cost me? In the past 10 years, this bad habit has been costing me that much, right? And how much does a substitute good habit will bring me of benefit, right? What if I could do the opposite? Good habit in place of a bad habit. Then when you see the value, you will be willing to pay the price. And you wouldn't say it's difficult. And you wouldn't say it's not easy. And you wouldn't say it will take me a long time. No. What we tend to do is when something becomes of a high value, we don't ask those questions.
I have a question. What do you say to Muslim women or just Muslims in general who suffer from a low sense of self-worth? Like, I'm not worthy of love, or I'm not worth marrying. Like, you're like, how can I provide a home? How can I keep up? How can I be a loving wife when I have all these demands on me? What do you say to people who are trying to increase their self-esteem?
Number one, you have to identify the sources that keep feeding that self-perception and stay away from them. Anyone who makes you believe or keeps feeding your self-worthlessness, they are not worthy of your relationship. The only person who is worthy of your relationship is one of three. Either someone who helps benefit you directly in any material or moral way, someone who reminds you of Allah, someone who reminds you of prayer, someone who can teach you a piece of knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who can give you a new skill to advance your cause or your life. Someone who can help you improve your attitude and give you good habits instead of bad habits, someone who boosts your morale and gives you good positive ideas to feel how worthy you are in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in the eyes of people. Okay, I think we spoke enough about self, I hope.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
What if that person maybe is your parent or people around you? Like,
Who are keep putting you down? Divorce them. Yeah, divorce them. You know, divorce comes in stages, right? Divorce doesn't happen all of a sudden. So I'm not suggesting that you divorce your parents literally. I'm suggesting separate. When they start embarking on putting you down, you have to go into a full defensive pushback mechanism. So you always keep telling me that I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. Could you please tell me what I am good at in your eyes? So turn it around. Have you ever seen me doing anything good? Because if somebody is on an avalanche and a campaign to put you down, ask them about the opposite of what they are saying. If they fight with you, that is the first step towards the issue of divorce. If they keep fighting with you, it will become separation, right? If they continue to fight with you and insist they are right and you are wrong, then you need to do one thing. Review deeply and sincerely before you take the divorce step. Review your position. My attitude is, whenever somebody criticizes me for something, I immediately have to assume, what if they are right? What do I lose by following their advice? So, Dad, you've always said I am not good at that. Give me an advice. How do you want me to change? What do you suggest I do to change? So before I engage in a fight, let me first assume that my surroundings love me enough to be diligent, to give me positive advice, and ask them for this advice. If they only turn into fighting to prove their point, they may not have learned how to raise a child, but they don't know that they don't know. So either you could keep and manage a peaceful relationship despite those view differences, or you could prove them wrong by developing the skills that they are claiming you don't have and showing them the achievements they claim they have missed in your performance. Then you'll change their views. But if they don't change, you still have your own confidence because you've achieved the opposite of what they claim. Okay? Yes, we're getting good questions tonight.
What if you have what other people think is a bad habit, but you just don't want to change it, you like it?
If you think that it is a good habit, sometimes we like bad habits.
It's hard. Like, I'll tell you what.
See, the word it's hard is itself a bad habit.
Like, for example, I get all my work done and I work fast, and then I like to relax and just relax. When I work hard, I work hard. And then people like to, work hard all the way through. But I get the same thing done as them. I just use the other time to relax. So when I'm relaxing, people think I'm lazy. So they're like, you're always lazy, you're always lazy. But I like that. I like, I don't consider it bad, but others would.
Well, yeah, some people eat fast and finish their food in 5 minutes. Some people, like myself, I'm too lazy with food. I take my sweet time because I have slowed metabolic system, so I eat very slow. So as people do things at different paces, right? People also react and act at different intervals in different ways. So you want your break, for example, every 2 hours. They want to take their break every 6 hours or 8 hours of work, right? It's a different habit. But we're talking about habits that, when we define negative habits, these are habits that either hurt your personal interest or hurt somebody's interest or causes trouble in a relationship. Those are the basic characteristics of bad habits. But if it is your habit, but you get things done in the total amount of hours that you need, it's okay. But maybe you want to look at something in you that is different but related. For example, in my children, I have one who, whenever he does anything that is good or something he wanted to achieve, he wants to reward himself handsomely. And that depends on what he wants. Okay? So if you are somebody who sees your intermittent breaks as self-reward, then this is a different type of habit. Okay? And it can be dealt with differently. But if it is about rest, your energy takes you for 2 hours and then you have to rejuvenate your energy, relax for 10-15 minutes and then come back to the next task, that's different. Huh?
I think where it comes in is people are working and they see me like that. So they're like, you can go read more Quran, you can go do good deeds, you can do this. I'm like, no, I did my work and now I'm relaxing. I need to relax.
Yeah.
So it is bad. I feel like it's like, yes, I always think, oh, I should do that more. I should do that more.
No, relaxing is what is called in the Quran a moment for reflection. So use your relaxation to make dhikr or relaxation that you reflect and ponder and think. This is a good investment of your relaxation time. But don't be intimidated by people who want you to do what they think you need to do. بارك الله فيك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.